I'm here in the eucalypt forest of Eastern Australia. They stretch along a long band from Victoria all the way up to Queensland. They are famous for their high diversity in eucalypts, some of which are the tallest flowering plants in the world. But they also support a high diversity of marsupials, especially of arboreal marsupials. And today I'm speaking to Dr. Ben Wagner from the University of Melbourne, who researched these arboreal marsupials in detail. Ben, what are the major findings you found here in this forest while doing fieldwork and studying these here?
Well, so we were especially interested in looking into gliding marsupials, especially one that is now considered endangered, the greater glider. And we looked into some of the things that drive their habitat contraction beyond sort of the classic disturbances that we get on a stand scale, like timber harvesting, which is an obvious one because it removes their habitat and replaces it with very young forest. But still, the gliders are declining in areas where there's no timber harvesting, and we were very interested in why that is happening. So we had a look into the climate, how the climate is changing, and we had a look into how nutrients are distributed in these eucalypt forests as well. So we were interested in developing methods of detecting how climate change is driving their populations at a large scale across the landscape, and at a smaller scale, how populations are driven by the distribution of foliar nitrogen. Because greater gliders, like koalas, they only eat eucalypt leaves and get most of their water from that as well. And so it's one of the tools that we could develop is to know how the nutrients are distributed in the stand to better map and determine where we might find these species or where they might be absent naturally.
Mm. So is there kind of a key finding which say like, this is very crucial also for their conservation?
So I think a big one is our finding on the driver, climate change as a driver of their decline across the landscape. Locally, we have these extreme declines because of the removal of their habitat from timber harvesting, from fire. But across the entire landscape, we actually found that the rising temperatures really drives their decline across Victoria, but also into New South Wales, where it's the same species as well. So they're very sensitive to high temperatures. Their physiology is adapted to cool temperatures and a lot of rainfall as well. And as the climate changes over time, we can see model from the 1980s to today that habitat has contracted severely. And that is something that only slowly finds sort of its way into conservation planning. And I think that's one of the more important parts to consider.
And could you share with us kind of some experience from your PhD and early career researcher phase, something which you would have liked known before you started out your research?
I think an important thing that I only realized recently is to really value sort of the knowledge and the skill set that we have as researchers. We're always sort of talking about this cutting edge research that we're doing when we write grants and stuff like that, but we really sometimes don't really believe in that, I think. Sort of like we're working in this bubble where everyone does amazing research, everyone knows spatial modeling and amazing machine learning and all these things. But what's really important is to acknowledge that we have all these skills and it's really cutting edge sometimes what we do, because oftentimes, and I've had that experience recently where I went to a more industry focused conference and I saw the talks and the people in the audience, and people were talking about land classifications and using drones and linear modeling, and there was people from governments in the audience and they were all blown away. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, I thought this was really basic stuff, you know? So I think acknowledging what we can do and the special skill set that we have. If you go into your PhD or in your research career, you really always think, oh, I have to learn more, I have to learn more. But we already know a lot. And we do really good work, I think, in ecology in Australia. And I think it's important to acknowledge that you're already sort of there, you know, we're already at that level, and we can use this knowledge to really foster conservation or our knowledge of the ecology. And just acknowledging that is really important, I think.
Wonderful, Ben. Thanks very much for sharing your insights here today.
Thanks for having me.